is Metal Roofing University with Adam and Mason.
Welcome to another episode of Metal Roofing University. I'm your host, Adam Clark, and my co-host, as always, Mason Burchett.
How we doing?
Mason, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Good to be back.
It is good to be back, and I'm not stuck with only you in this interview today. So
yeah, we have us a guest here, here at the far end of the table. Ryan King with Sedan is with us today.
Yeah, guys, appreciate you guys having me, and looking forward to talk some machinery and how it affects the roofing, especially the metal roofing world.
We love talking shop, and we probably should have recorded the conversation we were having before we even came on the podcast, because I was like, we should be recording this right now. We were talking shop before we ever got on the podcast to talk shop. So
yeah, and we had been interacting with Ryan, actually the last couple of years. I think we've seen each other in passing and learning a bit more about the equipment that Sedan offers, and we have some of your equipment here. We'll talk a little bit about that as well as the show goes on, but the equipment in our industry is relatively unique, and I think for a lot of our listeners, especially some of the homeowners out there, they may not understand how the quality of equipment can really affect the quality of the finished product and the appearance of the finished product. So we're going to spend some time in your space, in a world that maybe you know a little bit better than Mason and I do. And but Ryan, first let's just get to know a little bit more about you, and we can jump into some of your professional work and experience.
Sure. So I'm out of the Nashville area in Tennessee, so not too far from you guys here. Our office is in Georgia, so really kind of splitting the difference between the two. I've been in the roofing world for about 10 years now. I started in more of the flat commercial space, and then I got more into metal facades, roofing, and such. And I've now been with Sedan for over 2 years on the equipment side.
Yeah, that's great. And what were some of maybe the things that attracted you to Sedan as far as there's a lot of different suppliers out there, manufacturing machine offers out there. What are some of the things that were maybe most appealing about Sedan, and maybe before you were hired, and did those things hold true as you've been with them for a couple of years now? Yeah,
so I've been in a few different roles in the roofing world, like I was saying. And the first thing was, it's machines. Like, I get to sell these massive machines that literally form metal. I was the kid taking the VCR apart when it broke as a kid. So to actually...
It was putting it back together that was the hard part.
No, it was already broken, so it did not go back together. Typically, we just, what the heck is that thing that's in there? So that was me. Like, when I seized the go-kart motor, oh man, I took the head off and looked at it. Never worked again, but I did do it. So in terms of Sedan, that was the first cool part that brought me in. Like, this is cool. From there, really, it was the people I spoke to. And I wasn't even looking to leave when I left my last company. It was really just the people I spoke to and what they do and the way the company was going. And so really, I could take this roofing knowledge I had and then pair it with something cool and fun like machines. And that's really how I ended up at Sedan. And it's... I can tell you, it's someplace I don't ever plan on leaving. Of course, who knows what the future brings, but it's just a very great environment, great people, and a great product. So I've been very happy being at the company.
Talk about some of the core business, and maybe as it relates to companies like Best Buy Metals, that Sedan offers, and some of the competitive advantages that you believe Sedan offers that maybe some other suppliers missed the mark on, or some things that you're just really excited about.
Sure. I would say the biggest thing, the biggest advantage with us, and there's a few, but one that always comes to mind is how we are a one-stop shop. One call to us can really get you whatever you're looking for, whether that's folders or brakes, which we'll talk about a little more, processing coil or roll forming parts, even storage and software. So you're not dealing with many different companies all the time. So that's one big advantage. And furthermore on that, I'm not going to try to put a square peg in a round hole. If you say you need this type of solution or this is the direction you're going, I'm not just going to push one product that maybe I only sell, and I don't sell what maybe is the ideal product. So in most cases, our portfolio allows us to do that. And your follow-up question, sorry to that. were you saying with
just some of the additional competitive advantages?
Yeah.
I know the streamlining, getting everything at a one-stop shop. We're going to talk a little bit about brakes and the quality of parts as the episode rolls out. But are there any other advantages? I think there's probably a reason why you guys are located around Atlanta. I think distribution is probably an advantage from that area as well.
Yeah, so that's a part of it, being outside of Atlanta. I mean, it's literally the world's busiest airport. It allows our technicians to get where they need to go quickly, whether it's a new machine or it's fixing an existing machine that might have a problem. We're also, a big advantage of us is for most of the machines we sell, we're not a dealer. I actually work for Sedan Machinery. So we have a massive part inventory here in Georgia. Well, I guess a couple miles down the road would be Georgia, but in Georgia in the U.S. And that affords us just the ability to work directly with our customers, not going through third parties most of the time. There's a handful of exceptions to that, but for the most part, we're dealing, right with you, the end user, as the manufacturer of the machine. The last one I would say is we have many technicians in our field, so I don't care whose machine it is. One day you're gonna have a problem, like something's going to go wrong. So we recognize that and have many technicians out in the field that can handle those issues as they come up.
I think that's one of the biggest things is the service side of equipment is, one, it's a challenge for manufacturers. We're busy and there's always a need to be using the equipment for something. Yeah. And when it goes down, well, shame on anybody who doesn't do normal maintenance on their equipment. Everyone should be doing that. So, but when it does go down, not being able to get responsive action is really frustrating because every minute you're down, it's money going out the door.
Absolutely.
So, that's a big deal. And I think one of the other things I learned about Sedan that I didn't know is you guys have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I've actually got your page pulled up on my computer, but like 115 years, 115 years, something like that?
1907 is when Sedan first opened. So well over 100 years. And been making all sorts of sheet metal equipment for most of that time. The very early stages, we weren't making CNC machines. That technology wasn't there yet. But it's been over 100 years in business, and headquarters is in Sweden. So great Swedish quality machines. But as I was saying before, is our U.S. headquarters is in Georgia. So you don't have to call Sweden if you have an issue.
Right, yeah.
To brush up on my accent there. Yeah. So you were talking about some of the products that you guys manufacture. You said folders, brakes, so on and so forth. A lot of homeowners and even some contractors may not be familiar with how in-depth those terms really are. A lot of times they hear folder or brake and they think about the thing on top of the truck,
right?
Or in the bed of the truck, they roll out and bend stuff on site. Talk about some of the machines you guys are making.
Sure. So I would say if someone said what's Sedan known for, I would say it would be, metal shears for sheet metal and of course folders. Again, our portfolio goes much deeper than that, but that would be, really what we've been known for. So to someone that has never seen one of these machines, a folder, essentially, you might have heard the term a brake. Very common term as well, but it's going to take that piece of sheet metal and basically form it into almost anything you'd like to make. So in the case of the roofing industry, especially the metal roofing industry, your things like ridge caps and corners and drip edges and those types of parts, they don't come out of the steel mill looking like that. That's where you guys come in and take this sheet metal that's, for you guys, starts off as this massive thousands of pound coil, and then at the end of the day comes this beautiful product that you would put on a home or business, so and so forth. So a folder is essentially going to put the sheet metal into the machine. The computer will know what part it's making. It's going to grab that piece of metal, and then it's going to fold it into whatever the finished product would be. And it's one of those things, too, that seems very complicated, but really it's math and it's design. Whatever you want it to make, it's going to make it. So in the case of you guys, when you're making those parts for the roof and for the body of the building, it's going to make that perfect product to make it look great.
So if we had a homeowner who came in and said, "Hey, I've got this kind of this complicated, add-on to my home. I want to do a metal roof, but this area that has a weird step down from roof to roof.
Sure.
It's got some complicated movement and it needs to have a custom piece of flashing there." I mean, that's essentially something that could be drawn out in the software
Yes.
within the folder, or that's associated with the folder?
Absolutely. So, as you guys know, but as others might not know, the two most common ways to form metal, one would be roll forming, which is very common, of course, for panels, and the other would be folding. The folder really gives you, like you said, that word custom. A roll former can make a lot of great parts and very quickly and easily, but a roll former only does that one thing. So if it's meant to make a panel, it makes that panel. If it's meant to make a ridge cap, guess what? Hey, it only makes ridge cap. Yeah. So a folder gives you that ability. So when that customer calls you and says, I have a strange condition here, or I need a really big ridge cap, I have a strange corner, that's where it gives you that ability to not just give a cookie cutter response to that customer and say, no, just tell us what you need and we're going to make it right so that your roof and building looks good, but also performs. As we all know, the main purpose of a roof and a building envelope is to keep the elements out and keep you dry.
Yeah. So we have a trim roll former that makes a drip edge piece, right? And that's really great. It's really helpful because it allows us to make a single uniform piece consistently and in higher volume, but that's not always the solution to a roofing system, which is why you may know people, but I don't know any metal manufacturer that only has trim roll formers.
Sure.
There has to be this ability to make these custom pieces of trim. Talk a little bit about maybe ease of use for our operators. And, I think that's maybe one of the things that has improved quite a bit over the last 10 or 15 years, the technology side of the industry maybe catching up with some other segments. And what does that look like when it comes to training new people and making sure that the great technology that's available, even though it is a simple process, there's still technology involved. What is CDAN's approach to making it a usable product? Yeah,
so of course, like Mason, you were saying, you see the guy driving down the road with a brake on the side of his truck, and those definitely still have their place in the market. It's not like what we're trying to do here is get rid of every manual folder or brake out there, but what it does is, first of all, it's powered, right? The old school way of doing it was you made a mark on your metal to say where we're going to fold it. You had basically a protractor readout on the side for your degrees, and your guys are going to lift it up and do it. So that's step one. It's much less labor intensive. But the bigger part is consistency and accuracy. Computers don't make mistakes. If a computer made a mistake, it's because you told it to make a mistake. That's just how computers work, ones and zeros, right? So all of our folders and brakes have a touchscreen control to the point where you could just draw the part. And of course, we live in the real world of physics, and that some things are impossible. So no, you cannot draw something where the metal intersects itself. That just won't work. You're welcome to try. But basically anything you draw can be made, and it's going to be made that way every single time. And even to the point where if you go from, let's say, a 29 gauge metal to a 26 gauge, the computer, you can tell the computer, hey, I'm going to use this material. And so it's going to compensate for, of course, metal spring back, which we don't need to go too far down that path, but it will actually compensate for that, again, to give you that consistency. We even have technology now, in our case, it's called New IT, where from your computer, from your iPad, or even give access to your customers, they can even draw it in there and send it to the machine. I mean, just a level of it. How many guys have you had bring in a napkin drawing of a part?
Is that a 4? Cardboard.
Is that a 9? Is that a 4? So? That's a big thing too that we've been seeing more and more in the industry is that level of automation to really make things right the first time. Yeah, I think that's one thing that we've seen a fair amount is a customer will have an expectation maybe in their head, and when we make it maybe doesn't match that expectation. Maybe there's a communication breakdown. I think it's really cool to be able to put that tool in the end user's hand and say, hey, really show us what you're looking for and help us make sure we get it right the first time.
Yeah, what a cool piece of technology that you can actually put the power of creativity to the customer, right? I remember when I worked in Asheville, we actually had a guy fold a piece of paper and mail it to us through the mail the way he wanted it folded. So we were trying to reconstruct it, out of the envelope. And this just takes that, leaps and bounds beyond somebody having to fold a piece of paper and send it through the mail. Another thing, you're not the only people in your space. There's other people that make machines similar to you. There's also different quality of machinery. Adam, you and I have had experiences with less than quality machines that do a similar idea of what Ryan's talking about. How important is it, even for the end product, that the machine that's making it is a quality product?
Yeah, so I mean, I will say, of course, I'm very biased to my own product, but there are many good machines out there these days. Some of the lesser ones have even kind of gotten weeded out over the years, as the case with almost any industry. But at the end of the day, the quality of your finished part does have to do with the machine. Things like uneven parts. You know, if one side of the machine is not squared up to the other, you're going to get a bad part. And the worst is when it's not noticed till it's on the job site. Then it's, you know, your production is now has to come back and do it. The customer is upset because their product's not right. A lot of it even comes down to just, you mentioned this earlier, is routine maintenance. You know, this is metal on metal. Of course, these machines are designed to last decades, frankly. But a lot of times when we see machine issues, whether it's on one of our machines or others, it's because that basic maintenance, you know, wasn't followed. And so to the end user, you know, for example, if the tooling, and when I say tooling, I mean, you know, the actual pieces of metal on our machines that come in contact with your metal, if it gets damaged, well, where's that damage going to go? It's going to turn out in that part. But overall, when it comes to just the quality of machines, you want things that the computers, you know, they're accurate. The sensors, you know, we're accurate to 3/1000ths of an inch. So I mean, that's you know, I believe that's less than a human hair. So you're talking accuracy of parts that, again, when it gets up on the roof, up on the building, it's going to fit right. So when it comes to just inferior machines, a lot of times you're going to know pretty quick. And if it sounds too good to be true, like most things, it probably is.
Yeah. Yeah. And from a pricing standpoint, you know, as we've purchased different equipment, you know, there's this value that we appreciate, you know, and being able to get a part or a product or a machine that does what we need it to do for a fair price. There's also this concept of being cheap. And, you know, we try to avoid that with everything that we do. Sure. I mean, Mason and I have spent a lot of episodes talking about the quality of our steel and the quality of the paint and the quality of the substrate and the coatings that we deal with on our coils. But when it comes to equipment, the same thing is true. There may be cheap options out there.
Sure.
And we even, experienced this with some contractors who are trying to cut out some of the middleman processes, and they may not have the capital position to go and buy a machine that can do the right thing, but they can buy a machine that does something.
Sure.
And I think that's always kind of the risk that you have when you're not looking at the value and we're just looking at the price.
Sure. And like a roll former, for example, you can, for example, make, let's say, you know, one of your 36-inch panels. I've seen machines where the stations of the tooling are very compact and tight, and there's not that many. So you're asking each station to do a lot. So it could work well for a while, but you're now putting so much extra force on this machine that it's just going to wear it out prematurely. And the thing is, it'll come out for a while looking okay, but over time it didn't make the right bend. It didn't do what the product was intended to be designed. And so, you know, and I just give that example on the roll forming side, but we've seen that just where these machines are they're skipping stations, they're putting them too tight, and it's a great price, but it's probably not going to last. And who really gets hurt by that is the person buying the panels that doesn't know. They just think, oh yeah, that's the panel, and it's not to the quality standards that it should be.
It's one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the show and talk about, you know, the quality of the equipment does contribute to the quality of the end product and the satisfaction of our customer. We were actually talking earlier, and you mentioned that, you know, without mentioning any names, you had mentioned that you've been to facilities where you see this lack of care for even good equipment, you know, McDonald's wrappers on the equipment or drinks on the equipment. You know, is that maybe a benchmark that a homeowner or a contractor could use if they're maybe interacting with a facility? You are there red flags that they should be looking for as they're going in and kind of interacting with other providers?
You just made me think of something my dad told me years ago. He was actually in the restaurant industry for a while, and actually on the steel demolition side, so not our side. But he told me when you go to a restaurant, there's two things that he would always look for in that restaurant. And the number one, he said, was the quality of the produce, right? What's that produce look like? How long has it been sitting there? Are you getting that fresh? And the other one was, what do the bathrooms look like? And really all that was to say, is there care and pride from the owners to the top to the bottom, to the people working the restaurant? And so to circle back to where we're at, if you just see a really messy shop, or you go back there and there's just stuff laying everywhere, look, could guys still make a great product in that environment? Absolutely. I don't want to come across to say there's not dirty shops that do a great job, but I think it really comes down to more like the pride in the work of you and your guys and your employees and what they're doing. I just think it says a lot. Are they maintaining the machine? If you go back there and there's just piles of dirt and stuff, are they taking care of the machine? Is it making a good part? Is that, I said that bend needs to be 45 degrees. Is it? Or, hey, it's close, just send it out. So I think it does speak volumes. Again, it's not a hard and true across the board, but it does.
We think that, the message that we have to our team is that people will value or judge how you take care of their products by the way you take care of your products or your things. And so, I think maintaining a clean workspace, not to mention the safety benefits that you get from it, but this customer perception is really important, and I think, even some of like the color choices, and I don't even know if that has anything to do with why you guys chose some of your colors, but like you guys have color choices that really pop and they stand out and they're very visible. That's one thing that I always think about when I think about Sedan is like you guys have that green and gray combo. It's on your branding, it's on your shirt, and that's something that really stands out. And for some reason, it gives this quality perception. And again, not that that's a hard rule, but I think that presentation goes a long way when it comes to trying to create confidence with a customer.
Absolutely. I mean, think any industry, restaurants, automotive shops. I mean, I expect my mechanic's hands to be dirty, but I expect some level of organization just to, again, if you're not caring about your tools, do you care about fixing my car? Do you care about making my roof panel? So I do think it goes into the play of successful businesses.
We had talked a little bit about the history of Sedan. You guys have been around for a long time, and I would imagine that there's obviously been technological advances. Obviously, like we talked about in the last few years, we've seen some really big ones. But anything that you see happening in the future or the near future in your side of the industry when it comes to equipment?
Sure. I'd say a big thing we've seen in the last couple years is automation. People are looking at, we're a blue collar industry, right? So people don't think of computers when they think of roofing and metal roofs and everything. So that's been a big thing we've been seeing in the last few years. Whereas guys just say, "Oh, I'll just buy that whatever and just fix it on site and make it work." Now people are looking to say, like, I want consistency. I want automatic. We were talking about that software before. Boom, sends it to the machine. We have machines that can load the material in themselves. They can unload themselves. I mean, one operator can do what it used to take 3 or 4 to put out the same production. And that even goes to the current environment we're in where, good people are tough to find right now. Going back to restaurants, tables are closed still, and restaurants are closed multiple days a week because they can't get enough people. And I hear that a lot. I'm not sure about you guys here at your facility, but we hear that a lot. So by being more efficient, having that more level of automation I've been surprised to see how much that part has taken off. Some of it seemed like, oh, that's crazy. But it has. It's really taken off. So I think automation has been the biggest change that I've seen in the last few years.
Yeah, this may not be automation, although some people, I guess, may think about it this way. But like, you sent me a video a couple weeks ago just on some workflow efficiencies. Yeah. So Sedan has this tower, a flat tower called the Stackmaster. Yeah. Is that correct? And we've got one of those here at Best Buy Metals. And essentially what it does is allows you to organize your flats so that you can make trim without having to load a coil. And it has a tower that actually automatically pulls down flat. So if I needed a charcoal flat sheet, I hit tower, shelf 7, the tower goes up, grabs it, pulls it out, and brings it down, and gets that usable part right next to the brake. We've got it organized in a certain way to do that. It's eliminated the need for another forklift in our facility. It allows us to use that space around the tower differently because we don't have to have the navigation space. But it also is semi-automated because I can say, well, send charcoal back to 7, and while you're up there, grab light gray off of 15.
Absolutely.
And I can go over to the brake and start bending pieces while it's doing its thing. The video that you sent me where the stack master came down and it went to the shear and then it went to the folder, and that didn't seem like it took up that much space. You probably had 35, 40 feet of space there?
Yeah, if they're next to each other, I would say about 40 feet or so, of course, depending what with machines and such. But Stackmaster, shear, folder with minimal steps, minimal time. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what makes efficiency. Yeah,
I was really impressed by the footprint of the equipment. I was really impressed by a single operator really being able to do a lot of work that it used to take. I think back to like when we first started at Best Buy Metals, we had our pallets on a cantilever, our flat pallets on a cantilever rack. An operator had to go get it, pull it down, move it over to the shear, cut it, move the pallet back, put it back on the rack, come down, grab the pieces. You guys even have a hand cart underneath the shear. You can bring the hand cart with the cut flats over to the folder. It's just really impressive to see technology improvements, workflow efficiency improvements, and I appreciate that Sedan's forward thinking and helping to contribute to the progress of our industry instead of just saying the old way was good enough.
And that's a big part of what we do. I mean, we have a shear now that instead of just falling down a cart, it'll actually, I call it like the tablecloth trick. It'll pull out and stack the material, and that's a new item. I mean, I love that the fact that because we're Sedan, I'm not a dealer, we could bring this idea. Actually, a customer up in Ohio suggested it to us.
Cool.
And we said, that's a great idea. And so we tried it, did it, and we've sold a few now so far, and there's more on the way. So that part's really cool. And one thing I wanted to bring up that with all this technology saying a big factor of our machines as well, and others out in the market as well, is safety. A lot of this automation, even on the super less automated machines, there's still a lot more safety than there was years ago. Years ago, getting a finger damaged, getting cuts, getting something like that was very common. Today, there's safety stops, there's light curtains, there's restricted areas that if you break into it, the machine will stop. All these types of safety is also in there, which of course is good for your people, but of course too, if someone gets hurt, you got to stop everything, and so that's affecting you and your customers. So that's another big advancement. That there's always been safety suggestions and safety things in place, but now it's much more the computer can help you with that safety too.
Yeah, and people may not think about it, but that actually keeps materials more affordable. If you've got injuries happening all the time, you've got work comp, you've got other risks that you have to take into consideration that will drive the cost of actually manufacturing up.
Absolutely.
So the safety features are really a big deal even for our end user.
Even the stacker, I was thinking, how many times have we seen somebody dump a pallet of flats off
the
forklift, getting it down. So.
Or the forklift bumps into something. I mean, limiting that forklift until it's time to reload. It's something that I feel like a lot of people don't see that value in, but you guys have seen it because it's just you're pressing a button. You're not getting on a forklift, tying up another guy, and the more things move, the more things can happen.
So Ryan said, if you have an idea that you want him to build into the machine, just send him one.
Yeah. I'll call over to Sweden and we'll
he's the Elon Musk of machinery. I want a solar powered bender to be towed behind my Cybertruck. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Can you
all right.
happen?
Hey, we get enough juice out of that machine. I think it could be possible.
This was awesome conversation, man. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us on the podcast. And if you guys like what you're listening to and you want to learn more about Sedan's machines, we've got the link in the show notes. And if you want to watch the video and see our lovely faces, I'll also put the link there so you can check it out on YouTube. If you like what you're listening to, consider subscribing. We put shows like this out mostly every week. Sometimes we have to skip a week or two, but we're relatively consistent on getting shows out. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button for us. And until next time, thanks for listening.